This video is about feeling lonely and finding meaningful friendships. If you're one of those people for whom connecting with people doesn't always come easily. Hi, my name is Jana. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, where I share slow living, quiet moments from the Finnish countryside and inspiration for creating a calmer life. Finding friends as a highly sensitive person or introvert can feel like a challenge. Maybe you don't even want company so much because being around people can feel like it drains your energy. But then there are times when you might feel lonely. Maybe even with people around you, you feel like you don't fit in. It can be a constant balancing act. You need a lot of time alone and truly enjoy solitude, but at the same time, feelings of loneliness might creep in. In this video, I'll go through my insights about loneliness, solitude, and finding friends as an adult from the point of view of being HSP or introvert, or just generally someone who sometimes finds friendship challenging. I came up with the idea for this video when I realized recently that I don't really have that many friends. Like, sure, I have some close childhood friends with whom we visit occasionally and who are really dear to me. And I have online friends that I exchange messages with daily. But I have no one in my day-to-day life that I just call often, like on a daily basis. I'm thinking if I should put more effort into building new friendships. First of all, solitude is not the same thing as loneliness. If you enjoy being on your own and don't miss the company of other people, it's completely fine. No matter how solitary people might be labeled as antisocial or misfits. There's absolutely no need to be social all the time. It's completely okay to enjoy quiet evenings at home instead of going to parties or having a fully booked social calendar. If that's you and you're content, congratulations. Just keep doing what you're doing and be happy that you have found a way of living that suits you. But this video is meant as a reflection for those who are interested in finding more social life or aren't really sure how to do that as introverts or highly sensitive people, or for those who are just generally interested in reflecting on this topic. Why is friendship so different for highly sensitive people or introverts? Highly sensitive people often find meaningless chit-chat tiresome. We tend to put more focus on deep conversations. And this can make finding friends more difficult because most friendships start with light interaction without diving into the deep end right away. It can feel tiresome to keep up with relationships that feel shallow at the beginning before they have a chance to deepen. We often have, as highly sensitive people, high expectations for friendship and a need for deep emotional connection. That means that there's no room for meaningless acquaintances. But sometimes those would be needed to build a friendship. So my tip here would be to keep your expectations low at the beginning, because not every interaction has to be life-changing or mind-blowing. Another thing is that HSPs are often emotionally sensitive and need emotional safety. That's why conflict and rejection can feel heavy, which means that it might be difficult to make the first move, to ask a potential friend out or go talk to people for fear of rejection. But the good news is that these are skills that can be learned. I, for example, have gotten a lot better over the years in just talking to people. And I feel like it's become easier now just because I recognize that it doesn't come naturally to me, that it's something that I need to practice. And I also feel like talking is often overrated. Listening and asking questions can be so much more important and can bring you far in a conversation. One thing that almost feels difficult to talk about is that sometimes being around people can feel exhausting if we feel the need to carry the burden of their emotions too. Because highly sensitive people tend to be empaths and they sense other people's emotions. It's not their fault, of course. Very few people are 100% emotionally stable or always positive, and they don't need to. But what often others can just brush off after a conversation can really linger in our mind because we tend to process every nuance of the conversation. Maybe you can think of examples in your own life when you talk to someone and then your mind just kept going over and over the things that were said. The other day I bumped into a friend in the supermarket and we talked for just a few minutes, but during that conversation I found out that my friend was going through something challenging. And I had a really hard time trying not to carry that feeling into the rest of my day. And I had to really focus to remember that it wasn't my life, that it wasn't my responsibility to carry that feeling. I talked about how to stop letting other people's negative energy affecting you in an earlier video, so feel free to check that one out too. What also doesn't help when making friends is that highly sensitive people often get overwhelmed by large groups and noisy environments, places where friendships are often formed. And that can start a cycle of feeling both lonely and overstimulated. My suggestion is that you should try to meet people doing what you would do anyway. For example, I've been thinking about joining a knitting group recently. I knit every day anyway, so this might be a good way to bring a social aspect into my hobby. And that might help you finding the right kind of people who are interested in the same things as you are. I also want to point out that being introverted doesn't mean not liking company or wanting to avoid other people completely. It just means that introverts often need more solitude to recharge after social situations, while extroverts recharge their batteries in company. Introverts might enjoy meeting people, but they need more time alone to maintain balance. So I think it's about quality over quantity. 1 or 2 friends who accept you as you are and value your personality and don't try to change you is more important than a large amount of acquaintances. I think it's good to be open to the type of connection available. Sometimes meeting friends online can be more convenient if meeting them in person feels like an effort. Although I do feel that in today's digital world we should meet more people in person as well. So technology definitely does have pros and cons. So it's about balance when trying to navigate friendships. While I identify with both being on the more introverted side of the spectrum and being a highly sensitive person, sometimes it's good to look beyond these labels. I've been recovering from a burnout the past few years, and I've noticed that my life was revolving in a very small circle. I felt like all my energy went to recovery and I just didn't have the energy to socialize on top of all that. I felt like my family offered me enough of social life and everything else felt like a stretch. But now I know that the solitary person that I used to be wasn't really the true picture of myself. I did like to meet people and I appreciated meaningful conversations with others and having a good laugh with friends. What I'm trying to say here is that stress and anxiety can play a huge role in the picture when we're giving ourselves these labels of being introverted or highly sensitive. And wanting to isolate oneself from others is what very commonly happens when things are not going so well. So if spending time in company feels challenging, it might be good to ask yourself if the desire for solitude is really a personality trait or maybe a symptom of general ill-being. This doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with being introverted or wanting to spend time alone. It just means that it's good to look at the whole picture. And sometimes it's okay to let friendships die. It doesn't have to be a big dramatic falling out. It can also be that you just let the friendship fade away by having less contact. This is especially true if you feel like you're not respected in the relationship or there's even an abusive element to it. Then it's better to be alone than just carry on. We shouldn't be afraid of being alone because I believe that you will find the right people if you just value yourself and try to be open to new experiences. I hope this video gave you some reassurance that you don't have to change yourself to find meaningful friendships. The right people won't make you feel like you're too much or not enough. Feel free to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments. I'd love to know what friendship means to you. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to take care of yourself. See you in the next video. Bye!